there friends, my name's Nicole if you're new to my channel, and I'm here today with not one, but two theater reviews for you. I've been in London for about 3 weeks now. I've seen 8 shows, but I just now finally got a full-size tripod so that I can film some reviews for you guys. If it's okay, I'm going to be filming them in batches, pairing shows together that I think makes sense to talk about together, so that you don't end up with a ton of shorter videos, but if you'd rather that, do let me know in the comments down below. In any case, today I'm here to talk to you about the Royal Academy of the Dramatic Arts production of Hamlet, directed by Kenneth Branagh, starring Tom Hiddleston, and Shakespeare's Globe's production of Much Ado About Nothing, which I'm actually going to see the matinee of after I film this video. So I'm going to start by talking to you guys about Hamlet, and I do have some notes written down here to help me out a bit. So the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts put on Hamlet as a fundraiser for their school in one of the school's theater, I think it's the Jerwood Vanbrugh Theater, which is a 160-seat, really intimate space. And because of this, tickets were sold through a ballot, which I somehow won. So whenever my mom was over here with me to move me in, we got to go and see it. And it was an insane production. I loved it so much. I'd never actually seen Hamlet live before, so it was a really great first introduction to it. I love the Kenneth Branagh movie of Hamlet, so I was really excited to see a production that he had directed because I think that he really knows and understands the play really well. And it had Tom Hiddleston as the character, Hamlet, the title character, and he was absolutely phenomenal. I love Tom Hiddleston, especially in Shakespeare. Obviously, I've watched The Hollow Crown. I saw him in the broadcasted Donmar Warehouse production of Coriolanus whenever it was streamed to cinemas in the US, and was absolutely taken aback by how natural he makes the language of Shakespeare sound. So I was really excited to see his Hamlet. One of my favorite things about the production was actually that they took a lot of the male roles and made them female, which I think was a really great decision. I don't know if that was Kenneth Branagh's choice or the casting directors who were actually, I believe the casting directors who had worked with him on Cinderella, the live action movie. So I worship them, they are brilliant. But for example, Horatio was played by a woman and called Horatia. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern were Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Marcellus became Marcella, Bernardo, Bernarda. So it was really nice because it evened the ratio of men to women in the cast. Hamlet is traditionally a really male-heavy show with only really the roles of Ophelia and Gertrude for women. So I really appreciated that they changed a lot of these roles because it didn't change the plot line at all. If anything, I felt it made the Hamlet and Horatio or Horatia relationship seem more platonic by having it be a woman. But yeah, I thought that was a really lovely choice. Got to have some more female actors in there. Another thing that I really appreciated is because it was a fundraiser for the RADA, they used a lot of RADA trained actors and crew members. So I'd say about 2/3 of the people in the production, both the crew and the cast, had trained there. And some of them had actually graduated there only in the past couple of years. Some of them actually had graduated this past summer. So that was incredible to see young talent coming out of there. Because it was such a small theater, it was really intimate. You were right up on the action. I was in the last row on the ground floor, which was the 3rd row back. So like at one point I actually made eye contact for like 20 or 30 seconds maybe with Tom Hiddleston, which was insane, especially because he was such an intense Hamlet. But it really gave a nice intimate feel to it, and I like that they kind of played it up more as a family drama than a political drama, which I thought worked really well for the piece and for the setting. As I've said before, I adore Kenneth Branagh's work. I think that he works with Shakespeare like maybe no one had before him since Laurence Olivier. I think that he is one of the greatest masters of Shakespeare of our time, so I really appreciated a lot of his choices to do with the show. One of my favorite things actually was Sean, I believe his last name is Foley, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but his Polonius was amazing. You typically see Polonius played as kind of this absolutely stupid courtier who maybe doesn't have the best of intentions. He's kind of shaming his own daughter, telling her that she's not good enough for Hamlet, ordering her around, and I like that they played him with much better intentions than I've seen typically. In some of the movie adaptations even, he really seemed like this kind of foolish, but not to a point where you didn't think that you could see him in government today. Kind of yes man for the king, who really cared about his kids. was very clear that in both Laertes and Polonius' speeches to Ophelia about, protecting her chastity and whatever, it was done in more of a teasing manner than a like strict, stern, I'm telling you what to do thing. It definitely seemed like it came out of true concern for her. And he even seemed, legitimately kind of concerned about Hamlet and his scenes with him. So I thought that he was a fabulous Polonius. Speaking of Ophelia, Ophelia was played by Catherine Wilder, who is a 2015 graduate of the RADA, which is insane considering how good she was. She was such a fantastic Ophelia. I can't talk about it enough. Like, I thought that she was absolutely everything that I would want to see in an Ophelia, who is my favorite character from all the Shakespeare that I've seen or read. And she played it so affectionately, warm, open. She wasn't a weak character at all. There is some thought of Ophelia as this weak character who is just kind of being thrown about by men, but she was teasing with Laertes. There was an open affection between her and Laertes and Polonius that I thought worked really, really well. And she seemed very much legitimately in love with Hamlet and very confused by his actions toward her. And her madness was truly unsettling. At one point, she was waving a gun at all of them whenever she makes everyone kind of sing her song with her, mourning her father. And that was such an intense moment. You really had this thought that she was every bit as dangerous as Hamlet in his grief. And I thought that it actually made a really nice foiling of these two characters whose fathers have been murdered, and kind of what that does to people. So it kind of really gave a great contrast to Hamlet's madness, pretended or otherwise, which I think they don't always use that to the full extent. Often you only see Polonius often you only see Laertes as the foil to Hamlet, but this really used Ophelia in that way as well. And then of course, I can't not talk about Tom Hiddleston's Hamlet. Tom Hiddleston's Hamlet was intelligent, articulate. He really seemed like the kind of person that was brought up to be a king one day. You saw that in him. A nobleness of mind was there. But there was also this anger, this rage simmering right under the surface the entire time. And whenever it came out, it was absolute fury. And there was also, I think, this the sense that there was a danger in him, that he could go off at a moment's notice and God knows what he would do, which I thought worked really well because Hamlet does go off in these weird ways. He suddenly yells at people, he's affectionate one moment and then not the next. He stabs who he thinks is his uncle and turns out to be Polonius, and he doesn't seem that troubled by it. I did like that he really seemed shocked and dismayed at what he'd done whenever he found that it was Polonius, even though a lot of his resulting lines are almost flippant about it, and obviously in his interactions about what he's done with the body are very flippant, but that came off more as a coping mechanism for his genuine grief that he had murdered someone who didn't deserve it. So I really appreciated that as well. I thought that while his monologues were really, really good, he really shone in scenes with the actresses in the show, both the woman playing Gertrude. He showed this absolute grief and betrayal at what his mother had done that was at war kind of with his love for her, which I loved. He was so good with Horatia. They really, in only a few scenes, brought across this close friendship that was so believable and so real. And he absolutely was fantastic in the scenes with Ophelia. There was a clear actual love and concern for her. And I've actually never seen the "Get thee to a nunnery" line delivered quite like that. It wasn't a flippant dismissal. It wasn't an attack on her character. It came off almost as a warning to Ophelia that she needs to get out of Elsinore, out of Denmark even, before the bad things are going to happen that he knows are going to happen. Because I think at that point, he's already has a feeling he's going to start trying to murder people, namely his uncle, but he wants her away from it all. So I thought that that was a really interesting way to play it, a really grounded moment with a lot of gravity in a fairly flippant rest of a scene where it felt like the real Hamlet had come through suddenly. So I really loved the production. I thought it was fantastic. I do wish that they had filmed it so that more people could see it, because I also think they could earn a lot of money for the RADA by selling DVDs of it, but I understand why it was such a exclusive thing and why they chose to do it in such a small theater. I know it came under a lot of fire for that, under a lot of fire for not giving press tickets, which I think that is because it wasn't looking for great reviews. That wasn't the point. The point was just to raise money for the RADA, and I think that's also, it was so lovely to see it in an actual RADA theater. Hiddleston trained there, as did Brana, so I think there was something really special about seeing all this alumni in a theater that they may have performed in when they were students there. So that's my little defense of the production. Moving on, I saw Much Ado About Nothing at the Globe last week. It was the first time I'd ever seen something at the Globe, which was such a cool experience. I did a standing room ticket, or a groundling ticket, which is how most people would have seen Shakespeare in the actual day, so it felt very authentic even though my feet were killing me. And I'm actually going back to see it again today after this to see the matinee, because it closes this weekend. I'd never actually seen Much Ado About Nothing before, and I have since watched the Kenneth Branagh movie. This has become like me just being a Kenneth Branagh fangirl in this video. But so it was really interesting, and part of why I'm going to see it again is because I really feel like to appreciate the nuances of the production, you would need to have somewhat of a familiarity with the show already. So what they did with it was they actually set it in Mexico during the Mexican Revolution, which I thought worked fantastically well. Obviously, it's a outdoor stage, but their main set piece was this like train that they used as many different things, but I thought it worked really well, and it was a really cool set piece to look at for the whole show. But I just thought it was a really cool decision. They blended in a lot of Mexican-inspired dance and music, and had a fairly diverse cast, which also I think is such an important thing in Shakespeare. Speaking of diversity, they also cast some traditionally male roles as female. For example, I think it's Antonio was the name of the uncle to Beatrice in Hero, was cast as an aunt instead. And I think the major one is they cast the villain, Don Juan, as Donna Juana. So she was the sister of Don Pedro instead of the brother, and I thought that that worked particularly well and also put a kind of different spin on their rivalry, so I really appreciated that, and I thought that that was fantastic. 3 of the actors I was super impressed with. I really loved, okay, I don't want to say this wrong, I think it's Anya Chalatra, I'm probably saying that wrong, I'm so sorry, as Hero. I thought that she was fantastic. She gave Hero the strength that you wouldn't necessarily expect in the role. She immediately fought back against the accusations against her. She wasn't just some damsel in distress who'd been wrongfully accused, but she really showed an absolute dismay, and she wanted to fight back against Claudio immediately and defend her own honor, which I thought was great. The one person I wasn't super impressed with was, what's his name, Marcelo Cruz as Claudio. I felt, and he could have had an off day whenever I saw it, obviously I'll be seeing it again, but I felt that he didn't properly grieve for Hero, which kind of made me question why she would take him back, because he didn't seem that excited that she was alive or that disappointed that she was dead, so that was kind of terrible, especially now having seen the movie of it. In which the Claudio is absolutely just broken by it. So that was the only actor that I thought wasn't absolutely fantastic in their role. And Matthew Needham as Benedict is such a good Benedict. He is, I think part of what makes it nice too is he's really like tall and lanky and kind of has this like intellectual air about him, but he even comes off maybe a little bit geeky, like he's kind of too impressed with his own wit. But he uses the language super well. His scenes whenever he kind of announces, decides that he's in love with Beatrice were lovely, lovely. He's a really good Benedict, and I'm really excited to see him again. He's actually the main reason that I want to go back and see it again, is to see his performance once more. And then I can't not talk about Beatriz Ramilli as Beatrice, which that's kind of funny too, Beatriz as Beatrice. She was fantastic. It reminded me very much of almost Keira Knightley as Elizabeth Bennet in the Pride and Prejudice movie that she's in that she was very witty, but not in a biting way. Only towards Benedict really did it ever seem like it came out of a place of malice. her lines involving their kind of prior relationship absolutely broke my heart, and she was fiercely, fiercely protective of Hero. You totally got the idea that she wanted to go kill Claudio herself, and she would do it if no one else would. And I loved that. I loved the relationship between Beatrice and Hero. I thought it was lovely, and she had wonderful chemistry as well with Matthew Needham as Benedict. I also really appreciated, since the production is set in Mexico, that they were collecting money afterwards for the victims of the earthquake in Mexico. I thought that was a really nice gesture, and especially as I'd only paid £5 to see the show, I was more than willing to donate some money to them to help victims in Mexico, because I'd actually been wanting to make a donation to that, because the news you hear from out of there is absolutely devastating, but didn't have an easy way to, so it was nice to be able to. Alright, so that's my review of the RADA Hamlet, which I absolutely adored, and the Shakespeare Globe Much Ado About Nothing, which I adored so much that I'm going back to see it again. Let me know if you guys have seen either of these or any other productions. If you guys have a movie or a filmed version of one of these two shows that you would recommend me watching, because I really want to watch some more versions now that I've seen them, definitely put it down in the comments below. Let me know if there are any shows currently running in London that you would like me to do a review of. I've got 6 other shows that are just waiting to film reviews. And if you like this, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more theater reviews and vlogs of my time in London. And if you want to, you can even click the bell little icon to be notified whenever I put a video up. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I'll be back again next week, and thanks so much for watching. Bye. All right, that was filming, right?